And on our email that you sent out, we have 4 people who are nominated for 4 positions. And those are, let me get the 4. Those are Lisa Teeling, Jonathan Halverson, Arun Iyer, and Marty Jones. And I'm trying to see if I can actually share the screen. I don't know why it's not allowing me to do that right now. Can you pull those up on yours and see if you can do it? Okay.
You want the picture? Is that what you're wanting?
These are all the little things that we knew might be a problem.
Yeah, stick with us, everybody.
Okay. Yeah. It's telling me I cannot make the change until I quit Zoom and restart. So I'm not going to try. Okay. And so Lisa Teeling, you're on here someplace. Unmute yourself and that will bring your face up to everybody. Unmute yourself and say, "Hi, I'm Lisa."
There we go. Hi,
Yeah.
everyone. I'm Lisa.
Everybody see
Teeling.
Lisa? Hey, okay. And Arun, are you on here someplace? I know you are.
I am. Good morning, everyone.
Arun, I see him over there. Yeah.
And Jonathan?
And Jonathan?
Oh, wait,
Hey, good morning.
no. There he is. I see Jonathan.
Say hello, Jonathan.
Hi, good
Wave
morning.
big.
Yes, good.
And Marty
And,
Jones. Marty Jones.
And Marty Jones. Marty,
was on here.
unmute and say
Here
hello.
I am,
There
and
she is.
I don't have my my camera on, and I have to go over to privacies to open it back up, which I was trying to do before you got to me.
Right.
That's okay. We sent out a
Okay.
picture of you, so
Okay.
everybody saw
Yes. So
Okay, good.
we have 4 people nominated for 4 positions. Arun, Lisa, Marty, and Jonathan. Are there any other nominations? Then do I have a motion to close the nominations?
So moved.
So moved, seconded.
Second.
Second.
All in favor, say aye.
Hi.
Unmuted and say aye.
All
Aye.
opposed, say
Aye.
nay. All opposed, say nay. Then we have an election by acclamation. So, yay. Okay.
Good.
Okay.
Thank you all.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you for your willingness to serve. It is already an interesting year, and it will get to be more and more so. So
Video, audio, but no video.
Okay. Okay. So the next thing I'd like to do then is just make a couple comments about things that were in the reports that you received. And you are free then to ask me questions. And I've got Ned Coons handy. I've also got the 2 wardens are on the meeting, as well as all the other vestry members are here. So we will answer questions as they come up from you. But first of all, just let me say, I'm going to get rid of this. Okay, I can hear you. Can you hear me just as well? Good, good. Just a couple of comments about this year. One, as it would be an understatement to say that it was unusual. It has been a year where we started off like gangbusters and nobody can remember what happened in January, February. I had to look at notes from those 2 months to remember what was going on. But basically, we were off to a good roaring start in January and February. Our attendance was doing well. Worship was going well in every service. And then March 13th hit, which is when the orders from the government and from the diocese were to stop everything for 2 weeks. 2 weeks. I said, no problem. We can do anything for 2 weeks. I was worried about whether or not we would be prepared for Holy Week, but I thought we can get ready in time. And then now we are 10 months. As you all know, we began again with in-person worship at the 1st of July, and we have not missed a beat from March 13th, when we immediately had streamed service that Sunday, all the way until today. We've not missed a Sunday. We have, whenever we could, beginning in the 1st of July, had in-person worship going on. Parish Life has done an enormously wonderful job of trying to stage events that were safe all through the period. The choirs, the gathering band, the altar guild, even acolytes have shown up and do things that we needed when we could have people inside the church doing things. We've pulled off an amazing job of how to stream our worship. And that is in great thanks, as I said in my notes, to Ben Yerquidi, who is Ashley's husband, who is probably on here someplace. And Ben has done an amazing job. It was not something that was his natural gift, but he dug into every single aspect of how to make our sound better, how to make our video better, and then how to make movies that reflected what was going on in the parish. And just done a fantastic job. As well as Ben, every single Sunday since March 13th, the person who's sitting right beside me and will get angry with me for pointing it out, Gretchen Hood, has shown up and done above and beyond all the time. And she is always there. She's always getting everything organized and making sure we have what we need. And so we could not have done this work without Ben or Gretchen during these 10 months. So I just have to let you know how important they have been to this process. Okay? Yes. In addition to that, there are tons of people that have become very integral to what we do. We have this small worship team that you have seen every Sunday that keeps showing up. Meredith Guzman, Genevieve, Ashley, me, my wife, Chris, Paul Hudgens. Almost every Sunday when he's out of town, Leslie Fenter steps in. Peter Hood subs in whenever Ben's tied up with something else going on, just like he did today. And this small team with a few other subs has been with us the whole time and continues to offer to you the very best that we can, no matter what the circumstances. And I have to say kudos to all of them and thanks to all of them because they've done really marvelous work. You all have done a great job because when we had the shutdown start in March, I worried that nobody was going to show up or pay attention. And I worried, streaming was foreign to us. And initially I felt like it was just going to be boring TV preachers and that no one would show up after 2 weeks. Instead, we have had consistently good attendance both in our Facebook Live broadcasts, as well as people who watch it later on during the week, as well as people who watch it on YouTube when we email it out. And all of these things keep allowing us to keep connected. When we started up in-person worship, a lot of churches had like 10 people show up or maybe 20 people show up, and we had 100 to 120 almost every Sunday show up outside. We had as many as 180 a couple of different weeks. And it's testament to the work that you have done of being faithful with supporting the community, because the community is only as strong as each one of you doing your part and showing up. So I give thanks to God for that too. This is an amazing congregation. The other thing that has been true is that people also have kept up, for the most part, their financial contributions to the parish. And where we feared that we would be in terrible shape, we ended up being in okay shape, not great shape, not like it would have been. And the biggest thing has been the loss of the normal offerings that people usually drop in the plate on Sunday mornings, and which includes people who don't pledge but give regularly on Sunday mornings. And so those offerings have been down, but actually our pledges have held well. People have kept up their pledges for the most part, and people who give regularly have continued as well. And so we ended up less than half off of what I suspected we would for this year. As I said in my report, in the second quarter, we applied for and received a payroll protection program grant, a forgivable loan from the government to support our day school staff, because we had to immediately shut down the day school and not charge any tuition for the last 3 months. And we also included support to the church staff for that second quarter, which, if everything had fallen apart, we would have had to have laid people off, probably starting with the rector, actually, in order to make any significant effect. But we ended up with that, ending up the year financially, actually doing better than our budget by about $50,000. That is because not only did we keep up most of our revenues, but we also reduced our spending by about $90,000 from what we would have spent in a regular year. And so all of that combined, we ended the year in a good financial position despite all of what it might have been, and we're in good shape. Okay. The other major thing that's been going on, and if you've passed by the church anytime lately, you've recognized that the building work has actually benefited from the fact that we are shut down. For the most part, they have been able to do anything that they would have done without regard for people showing up and walking through the space, and trying to keep spaces open for Sunday mornings. And so they are in better shape than we imagined they would be. So thanks be to God. There is something that came out of all of this that is favorable and positive, which is the progress on the building. And so we're happy for that. And those are kind of the highlights for the year. I'd like to open it up so I don't just talk, and there are other people who might give answers and feel called to add to whatever I have to say, but I'll try to answer any questions you have. So the floor is open for questions, and I see Brian Coyle as a first questioner.
Yes, sir. And I apologize if financials were sent out. I did not preview them before the meeting. I apologize for that. But my question is more curiosity is you've gone over the overall budget, how we ended up for the year. How have things gone for mission work and for our outreach through missions?
Great question. What we found was we cut back all of the spending that we could without sacrificing mission work. And so all of the projects that we had in our outreach budget, we were actually able to spend and support. We actually had, we spent almost $44,000 in outreach funds this year, which was a little more than the budget, but only because we always get some people who donate throughout the year. But we spent more this year than we did in 2019. We did hold back a little bit right at the end of the year because we had given to every project that we knew we should and that needed the money right then. And we had a little bit of funds left that we said we will save and spend in 2021 that we know we can designate to areas that might need the money and we wouldn't have it naturally. Okay.
Roger, thank you very much.
So the answer is we kept up our mission and our outreach. We spent to every single project that we have. We were under in the areas where we would have sent money and people for mission trips to Belize, where we didn't have anybody go on the mission, the medical emergency mission trips that they go typically, or to Ghana or other things that we would have supported naturally. Okay. Next question. You'll have to unmute yourself if you want to ask.
Bob?
Yes,
John Chairman.
Yes.
I'm pleased with what you just said, but surprised from the point of view that we did not have an oyster roast. And that normally contributes so very much to our outreach.
Excellent point, Don. Yes, that's one of our concerns for the budget in 2021. We spent all the money in 2020, which all that oyster roast money was from the oyster roast of last November, a year ago. Usually we contribute about another $10,000 out of oyster roast funds to outreach each year. And we did not have that. So we are going to have to look at how we can spend our outreach funds this year. It will require some close look at making sure we continue our mission and ministry, but don't go into the hole too much. Yeah, it's one of the riskiest areas we've got, but we're not going to our intention is not to sacrifice mission and ministry. Okay. But yeah, we've got $10,000 that we usually get out of oyster roast that we did not get, and that will cause a problem with our budgeting. I will say one thing, and I didn't cover this as we talked, and this might answer part of John's question also. The next logical question is, well, what about the budget for 2021? We decided, since the pledges are down about $100,000 from normal, we decided that we would not try to budget for the whole year 2021, because if we did, the only logical way to budget and come up with a reasonable balanced budget, which we try to get into that $20,000 or $30,000 deficit range, and we always make it up. But this year, if we had tried to do that, we would have had to cut about $100,000 out of our spending for the full year. So what we did instead was said, we hope that we will receive more pledges as we go through this first 6 months. And we hope we will be back to in-person worship sometime by mid-year. And we will know a lot more about that in June. So we budgeted a 6-month budget, which is a really skinny budget, with a deficit of about $42,000 for 6 months, and said we will live with that, and in June figure out what we do for the second 6 months. So surprise to the 4 new vestry members who didn't participate in those discussions yet, but you'll be part of good discussions in June to figure out what we do. I have faith and confidence that we will be okay. This parish always responds with what they can do. And those of you who have had questionable circumstances and don't know what they can do will have the opportunity to give us a pledge in the second 6 months, and it will be better, I'm sure. But the other thing is we had ultimate confidence to do that because we have right now $400,000 of cash reserves as a parish, not including what's in the endowment funds. Okay. So with 400,000 of cash reserves, which 250,000 of it was added over the last decade by running surpluses in most years, we are cash rich, and we know we can get through the first 6 months anyway. And then we'll figure out what makes good sense for the mission and ministry of the parish in the rest of the year. Okay? Makes sense? I see Heather, you have your hand up for a question. Oh,
I got it. How is Mission of the Holy Spirit doing?
They remarkably, I love this. They are one of the good news stories of 2020. The Mission of the Holy Spirit, to those of you who don't know, is our probably historically been our #1 outreach project, and they are partners in ministry. It is headed up by a man named Keith Josie, who usually comes and preaches almost every year at Old Nation. And they minister to African-American youth and families in Norfolk. And the Mission of the Holy Spirit, a year and a half ago, we had some really difficult conversations with Keith about where does he go and what's going to happen, because they were really getting skinnier and smaller with the number of people that were part of their ministry, and they were worried about what the future held. But they responded when the COVID stuff hit and they had to socially distant. Amazingly, I would have thought they might have had the hardest time of all, but amazingly, they started doing all their meetings on Zoom and they grew their group. They have been doing weekly and middle week tutoring, conversations. They've run field trips. They've been doing their food supports, and they have had an amazingly positive year at the mission. And if anything, I'm just overjoyed with how Keith has been able to keep that group going and has grown it in this time. And through our outreach group, we gave them all the money we had planned and more because they were doing so well. So it's a good news story. So thank you for that, Heather, for that question. Great question. John Brown, you've got a question. John, you'll have to unmute yourself.
Maybe he doesn't know.
There, John. I can't tell. Is he there? Hey, John, are you there? Okay, we'll go to another question, and then we'll pick up John when he gets on, or maybe his hand is just raised. John, maybe your hand's raised, and that indicates you got a question. But who else has got a question? Bill Wade, I see you coming in. Okay. I saw you move around on the screen, on my screen, and that sometimes indicates a question. Who's got another question? No more questions? Come on, come on. It's an interesting year. There's all kinds of stuff to ask questions about. David Beach, if you're on here, do you want to unmute yourself for a minute and tell people?
Brian's got a question.
Oh, Brian's got a question? Okay, Brian.
Sure. I'll add another one. Are there plans in the coming year to continue formation studies like what you have been doing virtual since? And secondly, if we go back to in-person worship, is there a plan to continue virtual daily prayers?
I see you from Sicily asking that question. but I also see Betsy Morris saying like this, please, from Auburn, Alabama. And I'm sure my friend Mercy, who's a priest in Kenya, who is on almost every week, is also saying, hey, Father Bob, let's keep our conversation going. So the answer is, number one, what do we expect? Okay. What do I see as the expectation? Number one, we will keep formation programs virtually going for as long as it seems like the right thing. And right now, I don't anticipate that changing between now and the end of the year, regardless. I am finishing up this Bible study on Mark. And we've had fewer people with it. It's only been usually 9 or 10 people per week, whereas in the ones we did in the fall and the summer and in the spring, we sometimes were having 25 to 40 people join our Bible study programs. Okay, I think some people are zoomed out. I think some people have other things now happening as life has continued to get busier that have made it so that those have not been as well attended. But with 10 people, it's still well worth doing. And, you know, Ashley and I have had a commitment that there should always be some Bible study going on, some adult formation all the time. And so we will probably change the nature of that from time to time. Right now, we're doing a traditional Bible study of the gospel according to Mark, and it's going really well. We have 2 more sessions of that, so we'll finish that up before Lent starts. In Lent, we're looking at a combination of some things that are done virtually as a Zoom, or as like there will be a Wednesday night program that will be more of a spiritual, experiential kind of program on Wednesday nights. But what we are talking about doing is on Sundays in Lent, when the 11:30 service ends, we will immediately start a Zoom session, which will be a sermon seminar. So anybody who listened to the sermon, but then wants to do a little questioning, well, Bob, when you said this, it made me think you meant this. And is that what you meant? And we'll go through some of this question and answer where you can dig into anything that we say in the sermons or what you know might be true about this particular lesson we have preached upon. Okay, so it's going to open up a whole different sense of formation, but it will mean that you don't have to do as much preparation work. Instead, you can listen to the sermon at 11:30, join the Zoom session right away, and then you are part of the conversation. Okay, so that's what we're going to do for the Sundays in Lent.
Bob?
Yes.
Bob?
Jan.
It's Jan, yeah. Just real quick, one of the reasons that I did not continue doing the formation class was I had a lot of trouble getting the text. My order was actually canceled at one point from Amazon. They sent me an email saying, we're so sorry, but we can't fulfill your order. And this happened more than once.
Yeah.
So I don't know what the solution to that is. I looked elsewhere, couldn't find it. So.
Well, and that brings me to the other point, which is that even while we are doing these couple of things, a Wednesday night spiritual experience session that Ashley will be leading, and Sunday seminar, which will be a sermon seminar from whoever is the preacher, and others of us will also join in. In addition to that, adult formation is one thing that actually got more intense than less during this past year. Part of it is the virtual opportunity was easier for a number of people to join in with because they could do it from wherever they were, whenever they are, and they didn't have to come to the church. And that was very beneficial. But in addition to that, we have had 25 people finish a 3-month program on sacred ground circles. We have EFM groups that have continued to meet virtually during this whole program. We have done a number of other studies, just as what Jan was mentioning, that Dan Reese and Jane Kiefer and Genevieve and I and Nancy Reese all put together on book studies. I can't think of a year where we've ever done as much adult formation as has gone on in this past year. And that's one of the things I encourage all of you, join in and participate with these things, because you will find out that some of them are, even though they are virtual discussions, people are finding them to be very valuable.
Bob?
Yeah.
Is it still encouraged that we attend those even though we can't get the text?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah. They've been valuable, and there are some people who didn't read the text, but the experience and the discussion is valuable in itself. Okay. But the sermon seminar won't require you have anything except the gospel reading. And somebody's breaking in.
That's Marty.
Marty. Okay, Marty Jones. Yes.
I just wanted to make a comment that when you said there weren't many questions, one of the blessings out of this whole thing is there's been a lot of communication coming out of Old Donation. Things that maybe we picked up by attending on Sunday morning announcements, that sort of thing. The work that's gone in to get information out to the parish, to keep the parish connected, has been phenomenal. And I think some of us are concerned that once things turn to quote normal unquote, that some of this will die away. So I'm glad to hear that we're going to be continuing with the virtual things. And then on a side note, I just want to say that I had to leave the Mark thing because of the Mark thing. Didn't mean to say it like that. But I joined the Sacred Circles group, and so that was a pretty intense. That is pretty intense. So I couldn't do both. But sometimes, I know that the ones like what you're doing with Mark is an awesome opportunity to be able to do something. And by being able to do it virtually makes it even more attractive. So I'm not finishing work, but eating dinner and having to go back out. I can just plop down in front of my computer and take part in something.
Yeah. I think we're all learning that there are some things that we have picked up during this time because we were forced to do it, that are actually going to be carried on because they've opened up opportunities for Christians to learn more about their faith and to participate in some things that they could
True,
never.
Valerie, you really could do some studies that you wanted to do where you don't. Father Bob?
Yeah, Carol?
Yeah, I had just wanted to comment that for me, and I know several other people at least, the daily prayer, the noonday prayer has been one of the most amazing connections, and it's actually evolved quite a bit because the teaching that we're getting, the commentary, even though it may be relatively brief, and the opportunity to include Father Fred and Mary from Colorado in that, it has been, that's one of the things when Brian was asking, are you going to continue some of these things? Actually, I had my fingers crossed on that one because I know that's very time consuming for you. But, for me, it partly replaces the fact that we don't have the Thursday in person. But it's great because you can't, even people who can't be present at noon can get it anytime during the day. So on days I can't do it at noon, I still participate, and it's part of my regular spiritual, my regular prayer time every day, whether it's at noon or not.
Right. No,
I echo that.
Thank you all so much for that.
Yeah, this is one of the things we're learning, that it is something that ought to be continued, even though everything we do right now takes twice as much time. I could, in the past, I would be able to come, I could write a sermon on Saturday night and show up, and everything works, because everybody's there and you talk. Right now, there's so many hours going into producing a service and making it happen that is all behind the scenes, prep work and post work. When we get done with this, I will spend about 2 hours taking the videos from today and massaging them to create a new video for Westminster Canterbury, so that they have a worship service that they can show on Wednesday, which is based on Older Nations Sunday worship. But every week we go through these experiences, and I know I feel apologetic a lot of time, because even when we think we've got everything organized, just like today, I thought, well, I'll just share screen. Sometimes these things don't work the way I expect that they will when I get there, and then it looks like egg on my face. But we've learned a lot of things through the year, and we are going to keep most of them because they minister to so many other people. We have a number of people who are now every Sunday part of our community who didn't know about Older Nation until we started streaming. It's not just members who've moved away like Brian, it's also people all over the nation who discovered us by searching on Google for an Episcopal church or any church that was doing a service, and ours popped up. So we've had amazing turnout because of what we've been doing. I don't want to give that up.
Or Arun, who's now on.
Yeah, or Arun, who's now on vestry, who didn't know anything about us until March, right? And now he found us on streaming, and now he's been baptized, confirmed, and elected to the vestry, all in 10 months. So thanks be to God. Jackie.
He's a slow learner.
Brian, yep.
So he was a slow learner.
Okay, and Jack.
Late learner.
Father Bob.
Yeah.
Father Bob and Ashley, my heart grieves for the young people, young teens and teenagers,
yes,
the kids who haven't had school for a year. And I know that some of those young historian families are having not lots of, I don't want to use that term, but are having great challenges. And I would welcome anybody who wants to help us reconnect. And I've done some things to try to lift their spirits, but Can you address this, please?
Yes, thank you, Jackie. Jackie, that was actually part of why I wrote that last section on my report for today, which is that it's time to get restarted, or started restarting, because adults have done fine. Not all adults, but a lot of adults have been able to do fine with virtual adult Christian formation. But teenagers have been really left behind out of this whole thing. And one of the great weaknesses that we are all worried about is how will we provide things for a number of you on this session have teenagers and preteens and younger children that we haven't been able to do much of anything.
Please get off my screen.
This whole year. And so I want to make sure that that we start again now that things seem to be getting at least more regular. They are not safe like we can just go back and do everything like we ever did them. But Tony Putzig and I have been having a conversation. He's the people's warden, and he is going to be talking with the Newmans and with my son. And then we're going to convene groups of families and say, how do we get this thing going? Because even though there are things we cannot do, there are many things we can do. And so we need to get the youth and children's program working again. It was one of the strongest parts of the parish. And right now, we haven't done much of anything other than we've tried a few things. And some of them are active every week in supplying videos and doing some things like that. We've reached out for them at times for the in-person worship outdoors, but nothing like what we need to do and need to start again. So I'm very hopeful that this next month we will start to figure out some social activities and other activities that we can do if we can figure out how to do them safely. Okay.
Thank you.
We're with you in that regard. Okay.
Okay, thank you.
Good. I see Vaughn Wilson has his hand up.
Can you hear me?
I can hear you. Speak.
I came in late. I was just wondering if you could summarize the elections or who are our new leaders.
Okay. We'll post an email about that very quickly, but the 4 new vestry members are Lisa Teeling in the center of my screen, and Arun on the bottom of my screen, and John Halverson is somewhere on the screen, and Marty Jones, who doesn't have her camera turned on. 4 very, very good, qualified new vestry members.
Okay, thank you.
Yes, good question. Who else got a question for us? Okay. Other questions? Did we answer them all? Let me just tell you what I think is going to happen the next few months. Okay. I think I put in my report that the first Sunday in Lent, which is February 21, I think, or something like that, February 21, we will have in-person worship from that Sunday on outdoors. We will not be able to have it indoors until the positivity rate for Virginia Beach area goes down at least below 10, maybe below 8. Those are diocesan guidelines, and every week there's a medical advisory committee that discusses with the bishop what her advice to parishes might be, and we want to listen to good advice. So Sometime in February, we will have in-person worship the third Sunday of February, provided that the temperatures are nice. Today, even if the positivity rate were 2 instead of 16, which is what it is today in Virginia Beach, and the temperature was 34 degrees, we would not have had outdoor worship. Okay, surprise, surprise. But if the weather is good and the positivity rate stays in a downward trend, we will start outdoors in Lent. We will not be able to be indoors, I expect, until at the least, at the earliest, probably middle of March or middle of April. Now, by the early April, we will have a fairly good number of us who have been vaccinated. 90 people yesterday from Old Nation went and got their vaccinations at Scope. And I don't know if Monica's probably not on here because she's probably off working again. But Monica Yarez Lopez, who's a member of the parish, who works for Centera, is a nurse, arranged for us to have these 100 slots. It was her work that enabled us to go as a group and get into the vaccination program. When I was there, I was one table away from Melissa Wade, and I was hoping she would give me my shot, but she had somebody else she was giving. But by the end of March, we will have a lot of people in the parish who have had 2 vaccinations and a month past it. And I'm hopeful that the medical advisory team will say, if nothing else, you could do indoor worship with people who have had vaccinations. And I know some other clergy have said, we will never do that because it's divisive. It separates people who had vaccinations. But I said, we've got enough people to fill the church. It's not like we would have empty seats. And if it's safe, I think we ought to start doing it. But when that actually happens and the medical team agrees, I don't know yet. Those will be the criteria. Outdoor will start the middle of February as long as it's nice weather and we have reasonable positivity. When it was up to 22 in Virginia Beach, which it was a month ago, we weren't going to go outside and do that. So that's why we cut off the outdoors. Okay. As soon as we can, we will resume as much of the indoor worship as we can and keep it safe. At the same time, as we've talked, my intention and our intention, Ashley and I and the whole team have agreed we need to keep streaming worship out at least for the rest of this year and then maybe forever. It may be just a permanent part of what Old Nation does, because we are now no longer just a neighborhood community church. We are really a church that reaches people wherever they are, and we will always have people who can't come to church. So we will maintain the streaming. I commit to you this year, we will continue virtual Sunday school. We will continue virtual opportunities, and somebody has unmuted themselves with their dog. Okay. But at any rate, that's the plan as of now. Okay. The thing that you can do is stay connected. Please participate in what we offer with worship when you can, with formation when you can. Say your daily prayers at home. Keep up your own spiritual life, connected to the community, but also individually. Okay. That's the job every Christian always has to do. Okay. Other questions then? Okay. David Beach, do you want to just say one thing about the program? When do you expect to be able to use occupancy projections? I know that no one likes to make projections, but there are a whole bunch of people on here who probably would like to have at least a clue.
Hey, well, if you knew that, Bob, why did you ask? Well, the rear wing is all but finished. Having said that, there's some milestones that have to be achieved, and one of the most complicated ones at the moment is the new fire alarm system that has to be installed. We can't occupy the new buildings until we have a fire marshal's approval, and we won't get that until we've put in the fire system, which the fire marshal has taken a great interest in us having. So this is a different system than we started out with. So we've had to change midstream. At the end of the day, the fire marshal said, no, you can't have an old system and a new system. It's all got to be a new system. So that meant going right the way back for a new design and rebidding it and everything. So we're behind the power curve on that by some way. But everything else is ongoing in the back wing. The IT's been installed this last week, but we won't be able to put up the ceiling tiles until the fire system's in, and then the carpets will go down. So I'm kicking around because the honest answer is I don't know, but I would expect that we will be in there before the summer.
Mm-hmm. Yes, that's a good politic answer.
And I'm looking forward to being able to occupy the rear, the Great Hall to similar level around July time, I would think. Again, given that the fire alarm is installed on time. But heck, you know, we've got a dry roof now, so that's something.
Bob, this is Linda McGraw. May I make a comment?
Please.
I'm not sure how it happens, but I'm finding in Zooms, it's more intimate than when we meet as a group. I don't know if we hesitate to speak, but this has been absolutely marvelous yearly meeting, Bob. Thank you.
Thank you. Thanks, Linda. Yeah, it is interesting. There are pluses and minuses about everything you do, and we probably have as good a participation as we ever do right now. So 81 screens, and when you figure out a lot of them have multiple people on the screen, we actually have a normal attendance for annual meetings. So hey, this is good news. But thank you, Linda. You can probably hear it better than you could if you were in the church and people were talking.
And you can have your coffee. And it's also a little less pedantic without those charts and all of those
things. That's good. Yeah, that's right. Blasphemy. No, but before we move on to the building, and I see we got a question or two, I want you to know that David Beach, who just spoke, has been my lifesaver this year. I joked a year ago that he was walking through the parking lot and said, Father Bob, I'm retiring from NATO. Can I do anything for you? And so I've said jokingly to people, watch what you ask for. But David has been he has been the person who has taken such a load off me and Gretchen and the wardens, and really to some degree enabled Scott Crumley as our general contractor to even be more productive, because David is the go-to man, and he is the one. Anything goes on, I just say, David, this is what's happening, and he says, I'll handle it. And I'm thankful for him every single day of my life. And so thank you, David. Yeah. Okay. Yes, Dan and Nancy, you have a question, I think.
Yeah, I do, Bob. Can you just take 1 minute and talk about our commitment to repairing the breach this year?
Yes, yeah, thank you. I'm glad you mentioned that because as I mentioned earlier in my comments, we have 25 people roughly who finished the Sacred Ground Circles study group in the fall. They finished around November. And they were kind of an outgrowth of the work that we've done as a parish for a number of years, where every year we've had some studies on racial reckoning in our nation, understanding our history better, but all of that produced a yearning to know more and to get more involved and to see that translate from understanding to action. And so Dan Reese and Jane Kiefer and Genevieve started 2 circles that met this summer and fall. And from there, they have now started 2 other groups that have begun last week, the study that'll go on for the next couple of months. So we will have 50 people who will have done a study that most people never do, of knowing the facts, the truth about our own national history with race, which, you know, even to those of us who have had a good foundation and studied history, it's a history which often has been hidden because we don't ever like to talk about the truth when it's really bad truth. And so Sacred Ground Circles has opened up the view of what has gone on in our nation from the view of those who have been the abused, not just simply written by those who are the ones who are, like me, privileged to be a member of this nation, and by who I am and what I look like and where I came from, I've had more privilege and opportunity than lots of other people have. And when I said in my sermon today about one of the things that the psalmist says is that there will be truth and equity, what Sacred Ground Circles and the work this parish is doing is trying to understand the truth better so that we can really work to be truly there can be true equity in our nation. And I know there are buzzwords that kind of turn some of us off, and we have all this stuff about all lives matter, Black Lives Matter. I support Black Lives Matter because in our nation, some people have been unmattered. And what Sacred Ground Circles and our work of repairing the breach has been trying to address is to help us understand that truth better so that we can work to do our part to make that breach, that separation smaller, okay? And do what we can to overcome it, which is what God's work is all about. So the 2 extra groups are already studying, but in addition to that, one of the things you may have read in the report is that some members of this parish who have been through Sacred Ground Circles decided that one thing this parish could do once we knew our own parish history is we could create a scholarship fund. It would be more than a scholarship fund. It would be a repairing the breach fund. But the first place it would be used would be to establish a college scholarship that we are working out with Norfolk State, because they are our local college, historically Black university college, and working with them to establish an Old Nation Repairing the Breach fund named after Rachel, who was the slave we know from our own digging into our history, the slave that the parish first owned. As a parish, we owned Rachel, and we owned several other slaves that we have some names of too, but Rachel was the first one we discovered. And so we thought, you know, one thing we have the means to do, and people have offered a specific gift, So we have now $25,000 collected in our endowment trust managed funds so that it can produce a $5,000 a year scholarship in Norfolk State. And it'll be an opportunity for all of us to participate and offer some more money into that particular fund, just like we do support our day school students, okay? And we'll have a relationship with those students that receive those funds. It's one way of what we hope will grow into many ways, that individually and corporately we work to repair the breach, okay? Is that, you want to say anything else about that, Nancy or Dan? You've been part of that whole work that's integral to what we're doing. Thank you for your leadership in this area that is so important. Jim Pernini is another one who's been very integral in this study and understanding. And I encourage you to participate in ways to know more about our history. There'll be things that come up over the years, as well as sacred ground. Okay. Okay. Other questions?
Watch your time.
Good. Okay. I'm getting close to the end of time. There we go. I'm just looking through to see if I see anybody else. I just want to say thank you to the vestry members that we have had that have done such a good job of leadership, especially the ones who are retiring this year. They have done an enormous amount of work, and this year's work for some has actually doubled what would normally be the effort that they would have had to have made. So I want to say thank you to those members, especially those who are retiring. And I don't have that written down in front of me, so I'll probably screw it up. But Brennan Pope is on here someplace, okay? And thank you, Brennan. And Rebecca Barrio, who is already moved to Northern Virginia. Her husband, Ronnie, who's a member of the parish, is now the manager for food services and all catering to the Joint Chief of Staff. So he's got a big job up in DC, and they have moved. And Brad Croteau, I haven't seen him. He's probably on here, and I just missed him. And then the fourth is Mitch Bean. And so thank you, all of you, for your work, in addition to all the other vestry members. And Ricky Barrio was our youth representative in this last year and did a marvelous job as well. And so I thank you to the 5 retiring vestry members. Great job. I thank also the members of staff. I talked a little bit when we were talking about worship, the people that have kept us going, but also all the administrative and the accounting people, Shirley Hickey, who cleans the facilities and keeps us operating all the time. We've had so many people who've stepped up. Our Tuesday morning group that Stu Forbes has been running for a group that includes 5 or 6 of you who show up on Tuesdays and rake and clean. It's been an amazing year for all of you. You've kept up your ministry. Our musicians and choirs, Leslie Fenter and Paul Hudgens, have done just fabulous work. As I said in my report, Leslie Fenter has been the backbone of our outdoor worship, and we have to know, and you need to thank Leslie for the work she has done. She is out there typically 90 minutes before we start worshiping, setting everything up and getting all the adjustments made on all the sound. And even when it was 41 degrees, she was out there 90 minutes early working on the keyboard. So thank you, Leslie. Thank you, Paul, for putting together in St. Cecilia Choir fabulous music, as well as the Gathering Band. And even our Random Acts group is starting to get back into it. So the other thing I want to mention is Scott Crumley, who's a member, but also our general contractor. Scott has been saving our behind every time I turn around. And we will have the best additions we could have ever imagined, with more than we ever dreamed of, for at this point, it looks like below our plans and budgets. So we're in very good shape based on the reconciliation that was just done by David Beach and Ned Coons last week. We are right on target for what we said. We said that we would build these additions and be somewhere in the range of $500,000 to $600,000 in debt when we finished. And we are better than that with current projections. So we're in the ballpark and looking a little bit better than that. If we end up there with all the things that have happened, thanks be to God. But also thanks be to David Beach and Scott Crumley. So, who are God's angels in this matter, okay? And I know I've forgotten to do some other things. The one thing that I want to say to tell you all is that this last year, our wardens have been very valuable to me. Our wardens are always important, but this year with the shutdown and the decisions about how to start back up, I called on past senior wardens, and the two wardens, the senior and people's warden for this year, just worked and worked to make sure we were doing the right thing, and I called on them time after time. So our past senior warden, Bill Wade, was the guy who helped us get all the safety and housekeeping supplies so we could open back up. And I want to make sure that he gets recognized, and thank you, Bill. I also want to recognize we appointed in June, much to her dismay, a COVID czar. And that was Nancy Reese, and she's up in my corner of my screen. Nancy Reese, I call on almost every other week with a question about what we're doing. Is it okay? Am I doing the right thing or the wrong thing? But our senior and people's wardens have been Paige Martin and Tony Putzig, and they have done yeoman's work all year. They get Servants of the Year awards along with these people I'm mentioning. And thanks be to God, the vestry just gave approval for us to continue with Paige and Tony in the same positions for next year, because they were only in their second year of vestry. So they're both moving into their third year of vestry, and we're just going to keep the same wardens because they know what we're doing and they know what the struggles are and they know what we've got to overcome. So we're keeping the same two wardens. So thank you, Paige. Thank you, Tony. Yes. Okay.
Father Bob?
Any last questions?
Father Bob?
Yes, Shelley.
I just would like to mention Mal Higgins. I didn't hear you mention him before.
Yeah.
He did such a wonderful job.
Yes.
And thanks to him.
Yes, I tried to put that kudo in my report. I'm glad you remembered it. Mel Higgins is my favorite lawyer. Okay. And that's going a long ways to call anybody a favorite lawyer. There's usually not a category for that, you know, but thanks, Mal.
And for his ushering.
And yeah, not really just for his lawyer work, but actually for his ushering work, where he's been the legal consultant to the parish, but he's also been the head of the usher corps, and they've done a great job this year. So thank you, Mal, on both counts. So thank you. Okay, I think I've said more, and we're almost to an hour and a half, which is about 15 minutes longer than we typically go. So how about, why don't you all unmute and let's sing the doxology together, okay? This will sound crazy. Maybe that's why I'm going to get too much feedback. So mute.
No one in the church.
So mute. Yeah, forget that.
You're muted too.
You're muted, Bob.
Okay, so that was a bad idea. We got too much feedback, but sing to yourself while a couple of us are up here singing. So praise God from whom all blessings flow. Praise him, all creatures here below. Praise him above, ye heavenly hosts. Praise Father, Son, and Holy Ghost. Amen.
Thanks, Bob.
Thank you. My screen says set up professional audio in audio settings. and the sheep behind me said, yay, praise God, he's done. Okay. So thank you all for a wonderful annual
God.
meeting.
Hey, Bob.
Yeah, go God, go God.
Yeah, Bob heard it.
Bob,
Hear you.
can you
That's
hear,
what I showed him how to unmute it.
Thank you.
Bob, can you hear me?
I can hear you.
Yeah, I just want to tell you, I think we owe you a lot, and you are the best priest ever.
You're here. Amen.
Who said that?
You're a great leader. You really are.
Thank
And
you.
if it wasn't for you, we wouldn't still be here. I think this church would be.
Ken.
Well, thank you, Ken.
We are blessed with great clergy.
He's like crying, Martha.
You know what? A good priest is only a good priest because he has a good congregation. Okay? So thank you all. Every one of you are supportive and do what you can. So thanks be to God for all donation. Okay. Thank you.
Peace,
Thank
Bob.
you. See you later.
Stay well.
Yes.
Oh, great.
Peace, everybody.
Great seeing everybody.